I think I'm going to pull up our first speaker is on deck. So please welcome to the stage Dr. Bob Bodily, PhD from Tonic Labs.
Hello, everyone. Hey. I'm going to be talking about Bitcoin today. We're here at the Bitcoin Builders Conference, right? Did I mix up my talks? I am going to be talking about Bitcoin today. Who here owns Bitcoin? Who said boo? Come on. Okay, what about Ethereum? Who owns ETH? Another boo. Come on, guys. Okay, what about ICP? ICP, yeah, here we go. All right. So if anyone has been following me on Twitter, which I think many of you have, I haven't been tweeting at all about ICP lately. And that is strategic. A lot of people have been saying, have you abandoned the IC? Have you, are you even building on the IC anymore? And the answer is yes. We care more about ICP than ever, but we have, a strategic vision of how we're going to grow ICP together. And right now, that's through Bitcoin. So let's learn a little bit about Bitcoin today. Who's seen this chart before? This is mempool.space. If you see the red and you're trying to get a Bitcoin transaction through, you're going to feel very, very sad because this is 155 sats per VB to get through the mempool. So for context, if you were trying to do a normal Bitcoin transaction and it's just a simple one input, one output transaction, it's going to cost you around 333 sats at like 3 sats per VB. So this is about 50 times that. So instead of paying 300 sats, you're going to pay, 150,000 sats, which starts to get expensive. I mean, these are like the gas fees of Ethereum. If you haven't been following Bitcoin NFTs lately, the gas fees have been astronomically large to the point where some of the network fees paid by users has been higher than the block reward. Which is pretty impressive if you've been following Bitcoin. I mean, last year we had really, really low fees almost all year. So Bitcoin has something called probabilistic finality, meaning that we're spoiled on ICP because we have deterministic finality. You make a request, like an update call, and you get a response, and then you're done. Consensus already happened within a subnet, and you know that you have final state. On Bitcoin, it doesn't work that way. You pay fees to get included in a block, and once your transaction is in a block, then you wait, and then if the miner decides to include your transaction, then it gets mined into a block. Even after it's been mined into a block, you don't know that it's final for sure, because another miner could find another block that could compete with this. It's all about who has the longest chain in Bitcoin. So a transaction might take 10 minutes, or it might take 20 minutes. It could take as much as an hour or an hour and a half until you get full finality. Probabilistic finality. And here's an example of a block. You'll see every square over here on this chart is an individual transaction. The red ones are paying more fees, and the orange and yellow ones are paying fewer fees. And then the size of each square is the size of a transaction. So for Bitcoin, you're going to be paying based on the amount of space that you're putting on Bitcoin. Once you submit a transaction to Bitcoin, then transactions sit in the mempool, and they could sit in the mempool for a very long time, depending on the fees that you associated with your individual transaction. And in a lot of ways, Bitcoin is already non-fungible because the balances are based on something called UTXOs, which are unspent transaction outputs. So the way that Bitcoin works is individual Satoshis are mined, and then those are included as inputs and outputs in a transaction. And that UTXO model, you can essentially track Bitcoin across transactions using UTXOs. Let's talk a little bit about ordinals now. Who knows what ordinals are in the context of Bitcoin NFTs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, pretty good. Who owns an ordinal? Anyone own an ordinal? We got one in the back, except that's Max. It doesn't count. Anyone else? Anyone? Oh, nobody. Oh, what a travesty. We're going to change this with the launch of Bioniq. Just you wait. Okay, so ordinals. Let's talk a little bit about ordinal theory. So there's a guy named Casey Rodarmor, and Casey Rodarmor created something called ordinal theory. Ordinal theory means that when a single Bitcoin is broken up into 100 million Satoshis. And so one Bitcoin, 100 million Satoshis. Total supply of Bitcoin is 21 million, so total supply of Satoshis is 2.1 quadrillion-ish. It's a little bit less than that. And ordinal theory says that every time a sat is mined, you're going to give it a number, starting at 0, going to 2.1 quadrillion. And then you can follow this individual Satoshi across UTXOs, and you can actually track which individual Satoshi numbers you own. And this is ordinal theory. The next component of ordinals is inscriptions. Inscriptions is you take an image and you put the image in an encoded form in a Bitcoin transaction itself. So this is storing the images 100% on chain, which is something that I'm sure all of you have been familiar with because that's one of the things we tout on ICP is images are 100% on chain. Bitcoin has a unique, Ordinals has brought this interesting dynamic to Bitcoin where it's pay once, store forever. Kind of storage. So you pay once to have the image included in a Bitcoin transaction, and then it's stored on Bitcoin forever. Air quotes forever, because nothing is forever, but for as long as Bitcoin is around. And you don't prune the transactions, but we don't have to get into pruning. So far we've talked about ordinals, ordinal theory, tracking individual Satoshis, and then inscriptions. You actually take an image and you store it in the input of a Bitcoin transaction. The third piece to ordinals is you actually connect that inscription to an individual Satoshi. So this is Bitcoin NFTs. This is how people are doing, how people are inscribing NFTs on Bitcoin. Does that make sense? Give me if you understand, hand really high in the air. We got a really smart group of technical people here. Excellent. So this is ordinals, and people really like it. There's been crazy traction on ordinals so far. This is a Dune dashboard. There's been over $100 million in volume on ordinals marketplaces over the last 3 months. Ordinals started January 20th, around January 20th, and marketplaces didn't start coming on until February. And so this is February, March, April, May. So almost 3.5 months. There's been 175,000 trades almost and over 50,000 unique users, which is crazy, wild, wild traction. The key, I think from a trading perspective, the key idea is, one, look at the Ethereum NFT market and look at the total ETH market cap, then look at the total Bitcoin market cap, and it's easy to extrapolate, well, Bitcoin NFTs are going to be massive. And then you also have the key component of all images are stored on chain, on the actual Bitcoin blockchain. So these are kind of two of the main reasons why people are diving into ordinals. Here's another chart from the Dune dashboard. You can see marketplace activity started maybe February 15th. There was a little bit of activity, then kind of an initial explosion on markets like Ordinals Market, OrdSwap, Ordinals Wallet. Early May, you can see that volume spiked considerably. This was the meme coin craze on Bitcoin. Yes, you heard that right. People are minting meme coins on Bitcoin. I didn't hear any laughing. Meme coins on Bitcoin. It is as crazy as it sounds. So let's dive into that a little bit. Ordinals, if you want to characterize it, it's not a blockchain, it's a meta protocol on top of Bitcoin. A meta protocol takes advantage of a blockchain like Bitcoin, and you get all of the messages for this particular meta protocol like Ordinals, gets the security and the consensus layer of Bitcoin. What you don't get is meta protocols don't have the crypto economic security of the underlying chain. So what that means is there's an incentive to run a Bitcoin node. Honest participant in the network will get compensated on Bitcoin. On Bitcoin or on Ethereum. For meta protocols, you just have node software, and that node software is just running on top of a Bitcoin node, but there's no incentive structure to get someone to run that. So it's a centralizing force. for metaprotocols. So metaprotocols almost, in almost all cases, metaprotocols are not as decentralized as the underlying base chain. So what you're seeing here is an example of someone storing a JSON object directly on Bitcoin using a kind of metaprotocol of sorts. The top one is you can see the P, that's protocol. SNS is not our SNS. This is just a name service. It's the sats name service. The op is just the operation, which is register, and the name is the name, bob.sats. Unfortunately, this was not me. Someone else stole my sats name. I know, it's a travesty. The one below it you'll see is a BRC20 token. You'll see it's a deploy, and the tick is ORDI. ORDI was the very first BRC20 token to be deployed. The max is the total supply, that's 21 million, same as Bitcoin, and the limit is 1,000. That means for every inscription that you mint, you can inscribe 1,000 tokens at a time. So this is how you deploy a token on Bitcoin right now. You just take a JSON that looks just like this, and you go to some inscription tool, and you just paste the JSON in, change the ticker, change the max supply and the limit, and you're good to go. You click inscribe, you hope someone doesn't front run you. People can watch the mempool and see what people are inscribing, and they can inscribe with higher fees and steal your token ticker if they wanted to. So not ideal in a lot of ways, but this is a fungible token on Bitcoin. BRC20s have had tons of traction. Already has been listed on a couple centralized exchanges, and there has been massive traction. As you saw here, you can see the yellow bars. This is all BRC20 traction and volume from meme coins on Bitcoin. So it's a crazy, crazy, wild new world on Bitcoin. There's more experimentation on Bitcoin in the last 3 months than I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. There are builders, there are big wallets, there are traders, there are people building wallet solutions and marketplaces. It's kind of like the Renaissance on Bitcoin. Like people can actually build an experiment on Bitcoin again. Jesse, how am I doing on time? Okay. So now let's chat about what ICP brings to the table and why we're building Bioniq. So first, we have the direct BTC integration via ECDSA. So in this case, you can actually control Bitcoin via ICP smart contracts. This means you can have an ICP smart contract, and then using ECDSA, you can actually sign regular Bitcoin transactions that you can then broadcast to the Bitcoin mempool that can then be included directly in Bitcoin. This is really interesting because you can add a whole bunch of smart contracts on ICP and then interact directly with Bitcoin. You can't do taproot transactions on ICP yet. Taproot transactions require something called Schnorr signatures, which if you saw Max from Bitfinity just put a forum post up, and in that forum post outlined how we could maybe support Schnorr signatures to do taproot transactions directly from a canister on ICP, which would be really interesting. Right now, we can do normal Bitcoin transactions using ECDSA. The next component of the Bitcoin integration is ckBTC. As of a couple days ago, we had 72 ckBTC total supply so far. ckBTC is another layer in the Bitcoin integration where now you can take BTC, lock it up in an ICP smart contract, and then on the other side, it will mint to you an ICRC1 ckBTC token. ICRC1 is the fungible token standard. And ckBTC is really interesting because now you get Bitcoin transactions at the speed and cost of the internet computer rather than the speed and cost of Bitcoin. So instead of slow and expensive, you get really fast and really inexpensive. I think the current fee is 10 Satoshis as your ckBTC transfer fee, which is very, very low. 30x lower fees at least, depending on mempool. The next thing that we're doing at Tonic is we're building, it's not really ckOrdinals, but it's basically ckOrdinals. It's a wrapped ordinal solution on ICP. So we have a smart contract canister, and you can take an ordinal and you can send it to this canister. It generates a new ECDSA address for every ordinal, and then it mints you an ICP NFT on the other side. So by using wrapped ordinals and ckBTC, we can essentially trade Bitcoin NFTs on ICP using a native ICP token, ckBTC, and a native ICP NFT, which is the wrapped ordinals. So this is why we're calling Bioniq the world's fastest ordinals marketplace. And I think only ICP can do this right now. You really need a really good token. So you need some kind of wrapped alternative for Bitcoin. And on ICP, we have ckBTC. And then you need some kind of wrapped ordinal solution, which no one really has a good solution for this yet. There is Emblem Vault. Emblem Vault is centralized kind of wrapper for lots of different kinds of things. So this is our main value proposition for Bioniq. I think the internet computer is uniquely positioned as a blockchain to be able to offer the fastest ordinals marketplace in the world. And I don't know who is going to take this title from us because of what we can do on ICP. So my call to all the IC builders in the audience is I'm starting to see some ecosystems develop in the ordinal space. The ordinal space is really interesting because you haven't really had that many builders on Bitcoin recently. There hasn't been that much to do. So Ordinals has opened up a ton of experimentation where now you have people from Ethereum coming onto Bitcoin, you have traders from Ethereum coming to Bitcoin, you have blockchains like Stacks that have positioned themselves as a smart contract layer for Bitcoin that are coming in. You have people from ICP and other places starting to build Ordinals, and Ordinals has really become this kind of melting pot of builders and traders, and it's been really interesting to watch. And as I've been watching this, there seem to be some synergies within ecosystems. So Ethereum has OpenSea and Emblem Vault, as well as Ordinals Market, people trying to just wrap everything back to Ethereum. You have people on the stack side, like Gamma, Hero, Xverse, and others that are trying to leverage SBTC. SBTC is going to come out later this year. SBTC is the analog to ckBTC, but in the Stacks ecosystem with their Nakamoto release coming later this year. And then people from the Bitcoin side trying to keep everything on Bitcoin, like Ordinals Wallet, Magic Eden, Unisat, and then builders on ICP. I've talked to people from AstroX, talked to people from Funded about Plug, talked to a few others in the ecosystem, but it really feels like there's ecosystem synergy in the ordinal space. And so my call to all of you is, talk to me, see how you can integrate this wrapped ordinals and ckBTC into your applications. Our goal here is we want to grow ICP for everyone. And the way that we are starting to do this is let's do it by building amazing tooling for people trading ordinals and people that want to trade in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So let's talk a little bit about how we grow ICP for builders. And this is going to explain our particular marketing approach, our branding approach, our growth strategy, and we'll explain a lot of the reasons why it seems like we've pivoted completely over to be kind of a Bitcoin company. So the first idea is pick a customer segment outside of the ICP ecosystem. I think building for the people in the ICP ecosystem is great, but once you have all of the users inside of the ICP ecosystem, then what do? You have to either go to Web 2 or you have to go cross-chain to grow ICP to get additional people into the ecosystem. And so if you look at all internet users and you look at all crypto users and you look at current ICP users, these circles are just estimates. They're not actually to scale. I don't know that we are 1/6 of all crypto users, but the ICP bubble was going to be too small and you wouldn't be able to see it. So I think that picking a customer segment outside of the ICP ecosystem, this is what we're doing with Bioniq. We are specifically building Bioniq to cater to Bitcoin maxis, Bitcoiners, Bitcoin NFT lovers, Ordinal lovers, Ethereum people, Ethereum traders. And the way that we're doing this is we aren't even having ICP as a token on Bioniq. Bioniq is going to be a ckBTC-based marketplace. So ckBTC will be the main currency and wrapped ordinals, and you won't be able to trade native ICP NFTs or use ICP on Bioniq. This is a strategic choice on our part because we want to make Ordinals people feel at home. We want them to understand that you don't need any token to do wrapping on ICP. I think ICP can have the greatest user experience for wrapped tokens in all of crypto because of the reverse gas model. You don't have to own ICP in order to wrap Bitcoin. You can just come in natively with Bitcoin and just wrap it. And so that's everything that we're building into Bioniq. It's going to be a really, really seamless wrapping process. This is me channeling my inner Jesse. This is the only memeable aspect of my presentation. Sorry if it's been dry and technical. But I think we really need to let the tech fade into the background and build solutions to solve real problems. So instead of leading with the chain that you're building on or leading with, the interesting ICP tech that you're using, I think letting all of that fade into the background and then just talk about the solution that you're building for your users. So in our case, if you've noticed on Twitter, I completely revamped my Twitter profile, and I barely mention ICP at all. I've gotten a number of comments from people saying like, "Oh no, Bob, took ICP off his Twitter profile," or why am I not talking about ICP? And it's been a strategic decision to try to get integrated into the Bitcoin community. I really want to be seen as like a technical savvy builder on Bitcoin so that I can get people to trust me when I say, oh, we're building on ICP, and here are the reasons why ICP is a really great Bitcoin sidechain. And as I've been pitching ICP to Bitcoiners, it's been a really easy conversation. I tell them, hey, there's, how Stacks is a, sidechain to Bitcoin. ICP is another sidechain to Bitcoin, and here are all the really cool things you can do. And I very rarely get pushback when I use this kind of terminology. It might feel weird to a lot of you that I'm pitching ICP as a Bitcoin sidechain, like first and foremost. Like we all think ICP is going to be much bigger than just a Bitcoin sidechain, but it's a really easy way to get in and just start talking about what ICP is and why it's really, really awesome. And so completely revamped my Twitter profile, and if you've seen my tweets, which I'm sure many of you have, I very rarely talk about ICP. It's probably like 95% Bitcoin and 5% ICP. But because of this kind of strategy, I got invited to be on the first Ordinals conference is coming up in 2 days. It's on Thursday. It's just over on Miami Beach. And I got invited to be on the Layer 2 sidechain meta protocol panel. There are 3 people that they picked, and I was one of those people because I've just been like blasting out really interesting content on these crazy Bitcoin meta protocols. I say crazy because some of them are very crazy. Some of them are more legitimate. But this has been our strategy. Like, how can we target the Bitcoin community? How can we make them feel at home? How can we get them to trust us in order to then talk to them about really, really good technical solutions? And so this is kind of our core, marketing, branding, growth strategy with Bioniq. We want to be friends with and we want to integrate the Bitcoin community into Bioniq in a way that it just feels like the best Bitcoin marketplace to them. And then we can start to talk about the ICP tech and how ICP powers Bioniq and why, how Bioniq is able to do transactions as fast as it does or as inexpensively as it does. So I think, this is my main point today. Take Bitcoin, build for Bitcoin, add ICP, and I think that we'll be able to grow the internet computer the most by targeting users outside of the ecosystem, building solutions that appeal to them, and then start introducing ICP tech and all of the awesome things you can do with ICP. Thank you.